So, not a question I thought I'd have to answer on stream anytime soon, but this has actually been asked a lot more recently, and I guess with my beard actually becoming longer, it's more noticeable. I have no idea why I've got like reddish colored beard hair, guys. It's more brown red than anything else, but I used to actually have streaks of red in my hair when I was younger. I like to just think of it as like a light brunette, but question
Hmm.
mark and shrugs like.
My brother has the same deal, where his beard is like red, but it's like balding up top. So,
Well, the other
uh,
thing for to me is like, and again, I don't want to get into too much detail, but I literally have no other red hair other than my head. The rest of my body is all
yeah,
consistently one color.
yeah. I think I've heard of that a couple times, but I always figured it was because he was like, like half Irish, and I don't know if you have any like Irish in you.
Yep, that half Japanese, half British, 100% got that Irish just snuck, peppered right in. It's like Emerald
Ah.
Lagasse, like bam. But okay, folks, game number 1 in the first game of today's TING European Open qualifier. This is, of course, the second and final qualifier, now with 2 spots available instead of 1 to qualify, so top 2 players will make it through today's bracket. We had some delays and we had some late starts, but it looks like we're finally ready to go. In the top right side of the map, it's going to be the pink Terran Beastyqt.
Bottom left as the red Protoss, he is Goblin.
Now this is a really interesting matchup because it's TvP for one, and that's kind of whatever, depending on your point of view, for balance. But more importantly, for Goblin, this guy has played, we'll say, all in. He's also done very strange builds. He's not, by any stretch of the imagination, I think, a bad player, but I feel that sometimes he does go for builds that are less than standard, and that hurts him. But in some rare cases, like going 8+ oracles, it also wins him games.
Yes, it does. I think the Oracle game was versus Zerg, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I don't foresee that versus Terran,
Hood,
and
get on it. There we go.
I'm pretty sure that he's not, he's not always going for it. But it was interesting enough to certainly keep him on our radar. And I know that he's, participates in quite a few of the European Cups. It's just like a question of whether or not we basically get to actually get to him and cast him. It's up against Beastyqt, who probably plays even more. Actually, he's pretty consistent about all the EU big qualifiers and whatnot. And of course, you saw him for the the map tournament that we put on. He looked actually pretty strong versus Protoss. I mean, he ended up losing to Knee, but only after the first 2 games went really well for him.
Yeah, and like that third, fourth place match, I mean, it started off 2-0 and looked almost unfairly in his favor, I would argue, even.
Yeah, it was a one-base build, which we actually see right now is the reason he walled off, and Goblin should know that something is up, and then we saw a proxy Rax, which is always fun to see versus Protoss, and I don't know, it might happen here, but this one-base build said, like, Goblin should know something is up just by that supply depot timing. Unfortunately, just cannot know what type of one-base build there it is.
Yeah. Well, the thing for Beastie, and I think a lot of Terran in general, we're seeing a lot more emphasis on trying to play aggression than straight up macro. I think the worst thing that we're constantly seeing when it comes to late game Terran versus Protoss is you do get this stage where either Liberators are too good for the Protoss to deal with, or Tempests become too difficult for the Terran to deal with. And there's only such a small handful of players on either side of the race spectrum who seem to be able to handle those scenarios efficiently.
Yeah. I have never been more confused as to where the state of StarCraft 2 balance is, or the word balance than just like nothing is very even. Like, I feel like we have a lot of Europeans, Terrans, and we can actually like confirm that, right? That are like, I don't know what to do versus Ultras, and I'm sure some of them are like, I don't know what to do against Protoss, and of course Protoss, I don't know what to do against Liberators, and everything is just so topsy-turvy. And then you get to Korea, which is now like their environment, and everything is like opposite over there. Apparently Zergs like suck over there or something, and I just like the split between the Western and Koreans has really, I think, messed everything up. Without them, it doesn't balance out. No one knows what to study. No one knows what to practice.
Well, maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. Thank you, KeyMake12, for the 5-month resub. We got a drop coming in from BC. This, of course, has a Widowmine with it, but a considerable amount of Marines. Quick pull away out of Goblin, though, so he's not going to lose too much for this, not right away, but, of course, does have to deal with this. Overcharge going to come in, but there's no pylon to cover the back of this, and, of course, no Oracle, no Observer, nothing for detection in the immediate vicinity.
Yeah. Again, like, Goblin should have noted this was something like this was probably going to happen. It's actually very surprising nowadays to see a pylon not in the back of a mineral line, especially after such a large amount of time. There's 2 pylons out in the front that, I guess he wanted to hide the Twilight Council, so it's just very unfortunate. Finally, one finishes up.
Nice pickup with those Marines, too. I can't believe that overcharge didn't get more kills.
Yeah. There's actually no pylon over here, and he scouts the Dark Shrine, so...
Things are not going well for poor Goblin right now. I think it's safe to say.
No. And behind this, Beastyqt did get a command center, and he scouted everything. That's the other problem for Goblin. If he gets 9 probe losses, okay, that sucks. But if he can return them by being surprised, DTs in your main, then that's great. But
Beast
unfortunately,
is not gonna let that happen. Turrets coming down all over the place. Can cover against the Warp Prism, provide that detection. I do want to say that pickup drop micro was pretty cute to watch, but unfortunately, you're right. Like 9 probes died. This did only even up the income wars. Like it's not so bad. BC's obviously got mules, so power to Terran and all that. But Goblin, despite having a decent probe count this entire time, has been consistently not mining off of like one of these bases through each of these attacks. Probe trying to take the 3rd gets shot down too. Just BC getting a lot done with a very little is not too great for our Protoss friend in this instance.
Interesting that Beastyqt went for combat shields first. I guess
so. The DTs can't one-shot things. I guess so. I didn't actually see the timing whether that was reactive or preemptive.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Well, there is one problem with the way Beastyqt did things, and that's if the Warp Prism suicided in, he would have to use a scan, but or finds this one location where there's a missile turret. That's even better. Okay,
so Goblin somehow manages to squeeze in and get some work done. Main's held, natural and SCVs in the main also being picked off and driven away. So already paying back some of that worker damage, and Beasty quickly losing his lead.
Yeah,
now,
I
still don't think he's in a terrible spot coming off the back end of this, because mules are cool, but this is a situation where a Terran player didn't go for a 3rd CC, so you don't get to band-aid this damage like you normally do.
Right. This was return damage and then some, and it really shouldn't have happened. Obviously, like Beastyqt knew what was going to happen. He figured that if he turtled it with missile turrets, then it would never happen. But like I said, he could either just suicide the Warp Prism in. You would have still been able to drop off probably all the DTs from the Warp Prism. It's just, one missile turret doesn't really cut it. And then, just spread them out. And they're going to do damage either by killing SCVs or maybe reactors, or at the very least getting you to use your scans. And it's so funny that this over preparation actually hurt Beastyqt, trying to be clever about it. Like it's like a live turrets, right? You try to be clever about where the mutas are going to go, and they go like the one other direction you didn't think of, and suddenly you lost like 10 SCVs when you were actually supposed to be prepared. Yeah.
Real quick comment to question from chat asking, damn, I can't watch these games. Will they be on YouTube later? The answer is always going to be yes. Nice username has been absolutely fantastic. We're all caught up on VODs. Yesterday's matches were on YouTube before the evening. Like, he was so good, and he is so good at getting those games up for you guys. So, YouTube manager, nice username, gets a bit of a shout out. And to answer the question, yes, they will be on YouTube.
Yep. All right, well, now it's back to Beastyqt, who has to try and deal damage to make up for his SCV losses, because Goblin, I mean, it's actually really topsy-turvy. Goblin, behind that, went for a 3rd Nexus, the same way. Behind Aggression, Beastyqt went for an Apple.
I like that Goblin didn't completely give up and trying to get back in here, but he was quite lucky, I'd say, to get the DT damage that he did. It's going to be very unlikely Beasty leaves that opening again, but also, more importantly, that, he finds himself without that detection. Turrets, again, all over the place. Drop on the main coming in. A Goblin hopefully now looking at home. He's got to deal with some Widow Mines.
Okay, like 2, 3.
It's like that almost questionable last second split. DT and the natural not going to be able to defend against this. Goblin is looking once again though, so it won't be so bad. Probably going to get about 3 more, 2 more, so about 5 kills in total. Pushes with his main army. Now this is where it's really important and worth noting. BC doesn't have a 3rd CC, and he had been muling a bit to try and make up for those SCV losses. He's going to need scans on the offensive. Nothing's going to be worse than taking this dominating fight over the units you can see and then bleeding everything out to like 1 or 2 DTs.
Yeah, that is not a lot of units. Oh, I think what's worse though is that there's not a lot of pylons at the front. Only 2, and really only 1, as you're gonna either pick and choose like top or bottom, so where to attack as the Terran. No sentries, even for Guardian Shield, and I don't know. Beastyqt should just be able to roll over this army. Most are not even in position.
The Immortals go down so freaking quickly, and pylons just being taken care of before the fight even begins. Goblin, unfortunately, not going to take a good defensive fight. Stalker's just kind of walking around. Mothership Core gets sniped, and that's going to be it. That's all she wrote. Third base goes down without contest. Probes annihilated in that mineral line. And then the Immortal just dancing because Goblin knows what's up. GG.
GG.
All right, well, very nice game. Number 1 out of Beastie. I'm going to check into something here really quick, guys. So we're going to go to... Normally, we wouldn't do this till after the first best of 3. I'm sorry to do this, but small break. Keep it quick. We'll keep it short. And we'll see you guys for Game 2 ASAP. I just want to say, if that sock takeoff just now was any indication of like an actual strip tease, you were going to be the worst sexy stripper of all time. You're just like, ugh.
But I'll be a sexy stripper.
Let me get it off. Can you just help me with the buckle on the back? Okay, let's do this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Spawning on the bottom right side of Frozen Temple. He's down 1 game. We'll see if he can bring it back. It's going to be the red Protoss Goblin.
And in the top left as the pink Terran, he's Beastyqt.
Who is most recently made teamless, unfortunately.
Oh,
But-
also that.
But perhaps fortunate for anyone looking for a good Terran.
Now that SCV was scouted by Goblin's probe, and obviously the probe was scouted by Beastyqt, so he knows that the jig is kind of already up. Unless Goblin's also going for a proxy. Okay, well, they both could have maybe thought it was a scout for each other, and then soon
Okay,
they're going to
so-
be like, where are each other's workers?
There's that aspect to it, yes, but the question is which proxy beats what. And I feel like if this is a Stargate at a Goblin, the barracks are going to win this. However, if it's a Robo, he may stand a better chance, and I only say this based on the fact that it might get like base tradey, and then Oracle is limited on its energy.
Yeah, well, it's a gateway, so that's interesting. I think that, well, Beastyqt could just run around whatever Goblin gets. Is what I'm thinking might happen. Because if he gets well, I guess if he gets Stalkers, he can't run around Stalkers. Well, I mean,
the
so
second barracks to me though is so weird. Like, I guess it has to be Reapers because how else would they get over those rocks? But all right, so gets to the main. Immediately, red flags are now flown for Goblin. Unfortunately for him, even though he's getting his Zealot out, and that'll buy a little bit of time. The question is like. Now he has to spend the Mothership Core energy, or the money on the Mothership Core at home instead of Adepts on the front lines. He now has to follow up with a second gas because he may want to get some other unit. BC scouting sees suspiciously nothing. I think both players are fully aware that something was placed elsewhere on the map outside of their mains.
Yeah. And Goblin should know that it's Reapers, by the way, not Marines. He did scout those gases. Okay, so this is gonna be a very interesting game. Mothership Core on the way. She's gonna be able to. She's gonna be able to zone at the very least. Like even if it puts an overcharge, it doesn't get anything done, and it probably won't. Zoning away from the mineral lines will save Goblin's income at least a little bit. Where I guess Beastyqt's wall will save his income for quite some time. He's gonna have to bleed out SCV's repairing, but.
This Zealot was an excellent choice, by the way. If he didn't have that buying time, this would be no bueno. But this Adept actually comes over here. Depot's not raised. Okay. There we go.
It took forever.
He does have 2 Reapers going back home, and it's worth noting like 2 to 3 Reapers can actually take on Adepts relatively well. But this is the problem for for Beastie. Goblin's follow-up might be 2 pylons at the bottom of this ramp, and if that's the case, Beastie's going to be in a lot of trouble. That factory's not finishing anytime soon, not without losing a lot of SCVs for it. He needs to snipe off this probe that's coming over to place down that pylon. Right now, that Adept is not important.
Yeah.
1 pylon's still manageable. If he gets 2 up, that's when this is problems.
Yeah, and it's too bad that he wasn't able to get a photon overcharge on the defensive as well, because maybe 1 overcharge wouldn't be nearly as bad as 2. Could still, maybe? Nah, not gonna get this balance.
Hey, by the way, gotta give some shout-outs. We see Jesse joining us in chat today. Jesse, Ting Jesse, of course, the representative from Ting. The one who actually approached us in the first place about doing this awesome event and all that stuff, so make sure you guys give him some love, and if you had any questions about Ting, send him his way. But BC getting hit pretty hard with these pylons. It's interesting that Goblin doesn't actually go for the double overcharge, relying on his Adept damage to take down that depot. Now that the opening's been made, BC's going to have to worry about Adept starting to transfer into his base. Again, picking up like 1 Adept to the side like this is exactly what Reapers can take on, but 2 is unfortunately just too many.
Yeah. It's still, if it wasn't supply block, it still doesn't look that bad. Now the Reapers are just going to go across the way. There's actually 2 Adepts in a Zealot. Okay, so the Reapers are probably just gonna have to dance really well or just leave, basically.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's really unfortunate. Other side of the map, lots of SCVs being pulled, not just away from the mineral lines, but on top of that depot trying to keep it alive because he could not afford to get supply blocked. But unfortunately for Beasty, the Cyclone's still not finished. This should be able to push back that mothership core at the very least. Barracks are being brought home. He can put those down in front of the wall. This is something that losing so much binding time was really unfortunate, but now should finally be able to stabilize. However, 15 workers is not going to be a lot to work off of going towards the end of this game. I'm curious for this Marine on the low ground. Where did he even come from?
He made like one from one of the barracks, just in case. Okay, so 12 SCVs. Yeah, I'm not sure that's recoverable.
What's really interesting about Goblin's choice for strategy in this, by the way, is this could have still worked even if it was simply a normal game and not weird proxies. Like if BC built normally at home, this pylon abuse is something we've seen players like Mana and many others knock down other great Terrans with.
Yeah, yeah. You know, this might have been a reaction to seeing Beastyqt's intention to proxy. Like, one gateway on the front lines is not a huge committal, right? Like, if he was putting down 4 gateways on the front lines and was really just going all zealots, you know, that's a different scenario. Like, he planned on proxying like that, basically, which no one, I don't think anyone does anymore. But it was just one gateway, and I think this was a really good reaction, obviously, as he's looking pretty damn good in this game, and the only thing he has to do is buy time, and that's already being done with these pylons. Legendary Core still hasn't died. It's very annoying for Beastyqt, and there's not much of a recovery.
This wall, this barracks is so important right now, but that factory, if it burns down, and it looks like it's going to... Oh no,
wow.
It barely saves it! Oh, this is actually a huge save for Beasty, but he's still so far behind.
Yeah,
Mules are cool, don't get me wrong, but a natural base is always going to be better. Now, he did proxy his starport across the map, and he's not going down without a fight. And funny enough, the build that Goblin's gone for doesn't really provide detection, so these cloaked Banshees might just be his way back into the game.
You know what, though? I don't think he's enough gas for it. He's not resaturated his second gas.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
trying to get stim.
And he's had to spend a lot of it repairing that factory and this tech lab.
Yeah, so he's going to be able to get, either cloak and wait on the Banshees or vice versa. And I think it is better to get cloak, and because this is still a surprise, and you're going to hope that they're not going to get detection, which is a very big hope, but as actually happening, instead of going for a Robo or a Stargate, he's
Templar
advancing
Archives.
his Twilight, like going for Templar Archives. Now, it's a problem, because feedback could instantly slam dunk a Banshee, but only if the cloak is off.
It's too bad because like you're taking a risk with a Banshee either way. I think a risk with like it's so silly to say. Another proxy factory may have been more effective. Widow mines just constantly rallied in can be so dangerous. But I guess the idea is the lifespan of a Widow mine does not exceed that of the lifespan of a Banshee in potentialness. But supply block now on top of everything else. Just BC is scrapping for it here, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, he's being very, very scrappy. Unfortunately, the army at home really cannot take on multiple units, basically. If this was multiple Stalkers or multiple Adepts, that Cyclone's the only powerhouse unit he has. He's got to be careful not to lose it like that. There you go. Let's back up a little bit. He's finally taking care of the pylons, but really, I don't know about breaking down this ramp. Stim but no combat shields, even Stim with combat shields, the Adept count would be very, very large.
Yeah,
And,
really looking to see what's going on over here. I mean, Storm, this is such a funny, I guess he sees BC only able to make Marines. And like in this one respect, Storm is not a bad idea. But forgetting other important aspects of the game certainly are. And this Banshee is going to get so many kills. It doesn't even, like, it's got to be careful it doesn't get feedback, I guess is one thing.
I really am glad that Beastyqt is waiting for another Banshee. This is so risky by Beastyqt because he has no idea if he's giving time for a Robo to finish, and actually the Robo's on the way. But if this is a powerhouse surprise that instantly kills 15 workers, then it was worth it.
It's a gamble, and it's one worth taking in this scenario. I mean, I think he was going to gamble one way or another, but this sort of gamble, by doing it with 2 Banshees, you guarantee you one-shot the probes and move along much quicker, meaning your opponent has much less time to react to you.
Yeah.
Oh man, the Robo's coming down now, so there might actually be detection, but I don't think Templar are going to cut it. Like, even if you feedback a Banshee, it's not going to have enough energy to kill it.
Yeah, even waiting as long as that first one did. Here they come now. Cloak, there you go. Actually could target the High Templars. They could, right? There you go. That's pretty expensive for a Goblin, and an Observer has to be cranked out, but that's when you split the Banshees and just hope to continue damage.
He's blindly storming. I love it. Archon gets made. We'll see how much probes actually die here, because right now Goblin has also ceased his assault on the other side of the map while this goes on. So BC is finding himself with some time. All right.
Oh, wow.
So detection out and revealed. He's got to dodge that Archon. It can certainly kill these Banshees.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think 8 was enough, including the High Templar kills.
Plus, he sees the third coming down. Like, this is going to be disconcerting for Beasty. But he does, I guess worth noting, have a pretty admirable army. And if these Banshees can chew away enough adepts before the fight even begins, I mean, that's a lot of Marines that do have stim, that are about to have combat shields.
That Cyclone could be so useful. It's not even targeted. I don't know. What?
In the grass. Banshee's still kiting around for their lives on this side. He wins the Adept fight. Now there's no cannon fodder for Goblin. He's suddenly down a lot of supply, even with Warpins coming. Now his medevacs too. Proxy medevacs.
Is he really going to do this? That Cyclone gets a lock on the Archon would be absolutely perfect.
Or the Mothership Core. Yeah, one or the other. Preemptively overcharges, but there's nothing actually coming his way. Bunker going down because why not? It'll save you from the Archon, I suppose. Cyclone's still alive, barely. No lock-ons going off on anything just yet. Got to be careful where you dip in with that thing, though. He's got no SCVs here to repair. No boys being pulled. A Widowmine approaches the front line. The
Banshees, like, he has to actually choose where his Mothership Core goes, whereas his anti-air goes.
Oh, he got a lock on the Archon. He locked onto the Archon. It goes down. Widowmine going to come. Another Archon coming out. Storm misses a lot of the Marines, but pushing this back. He's now got a bunker to fall back into. Banshees, in the meantime, just killing the natural base. Oh, this is so weird. Beasty's army is so fragile, yet so good.
It's, oh my god. Oh, the Banshee's just absolutely wrecking. Like, if this continues, we'll be down to, like, 3 workers. Oh my goodness. I don't know, though. Like, would that be enough? I think that would be enough. Goblin's banking quite a few minerals. He still has a Mothership Core that could really help out if he just gets 1 overcharge on these Marines.
But Beasty still only has 1 base. Like, that's what's so alarming behind this.
But, you know, mules are... 1 base mule is better than 3 base no
He's doing it! He's doing it! He did it! Beastyqt!
Amazing.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, game number 2 goes to Beasty, and he'll take a 2-0 to advance on in the brackets. And that was fantastic. And also definitely one of the reasons we love watching Beastyqt. But the question is, who does he go on to fight against next? And it looks like either Raynor or Indy. And in fact, that could be an interesting game. We also have TLO waiting for an opponent. Getting some TLO love in here could be fun, too. Harstom's already playing. Xanaster waits for ZVZ. We'll probably try and avoid ZVZs till later. But regardless, thank you guys for watching. We're going to go to a small break while I figure out what's going on. Before we do want to play an actual commercial from our sponsor. So this is just to advertise TING. For those who don't know what TING is, it's a U.S. mobile phone service in the United States. In fact, we'll play the coverage ads so you know exactly how their coverage works. I used it recently when we went to DreamHack Austin. They're awesome. You can get $25 in credit by going to bttv.ting.com. And of course, the website will show you. They got savings calculators. They'll tell you whether it's even worth swapping to their services, and they're very upfront. If it's not worth it, they don't want you swapping. They want you to just be happy with your phone bill, whether it's with them or otherwise. So we'll see you guys here in a few minutes.